We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Former US President Donald Trump's election trial begins on 4th March. India's Health Ministry beefs up preparations ahead of G20 summit in Delhi. And at the US Open, world number 1 Iga Swiatek begins with emphatic victory. Djokovic faces Muller on Tuesday. March 4th, 2024, that's the day Donald Trump's federal trial on allegations that he tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election is slated to begin. That means the former president and current Republican 2024 front-runner will be juggling a schedule full of court cases and campaigning. Tony Waterman has more.
This trial would start in the middle of the Republican presidential primaries and the day before Super Tuesday. That is when more than a dozen states will vote on potential presidential nominees. Now, Trump's team had asked for the trial to be pushed back to April of 2026, arguing that they needed the time to review all 13 million pages of evidence that's been turned over so far. But Judge Tanya Chutkan refused, saying that a March 4th start date was adequate time to prepare. She said Trump will have to prioritize the trial and that she won't be making any changes to the schedule for professional obligations. One thing she did do, though, was check in with the judge overseeing Trump's hush money case in Manhattan, because there is likely to be overlap. That trial, in which the former president faces 34 charges, is scheduled to start in late March. Now, Trump took to social media to lambast the trial date, calling it election interference and saying that he will appeal. But the truth is, he is fighting 91 charges across 4 cases that could all go to trial before Election Day in November of 2024. Besides the elections case in D.C., there's again that hush money case in New York, the mishandling of classified documents in Florida, that trial slated to start next May, and the Georgia elections case, where Trump and 18 co-defendants have been charged with trying to overturn the election results in that state. The prosecutor there wants that trial to start this coming October, setting up a very busy year of court cases and presidential campaigning for Donald Trump. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he will appeal the scheduling of the trial, although legal experts argue that such a move is not possible before a verdict is reached in the case. Trump continues to deny any wrongdoing, saying they are part of an effort to prevent him from retaking the White House. The planned trial in Washington, D.C. is one of 4 criminal prosecutions the former president is facing as he continues his 2024 presidential push. South Korean and U.S. Special Command troops conducted joint maritime training on Monday. With hundreds of American and South Korean soldiers mobilized for the drills off South Korea's coast, South Korea says the joint Ulchi exercises redesigned to enhance responses to North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, adding that this year's exercises are being seen as the largest scale ever. Meanwhile, North Korean media is reporting that its leader, Kim Jong-un, is calling for strengthening his country's naval forces as the military drills continue, accusing the United States of turning the Korean peninsula into unstable waters. The Mexican Navy has seized 4,400 metric tons of cocaine during a high-speed chase at sea, also detaining 11 people. Those arrested have now been handed over to the prosecutor's office. Well, 4 migrant children drowned off the Greek island of Lesbos and 1 woman drowned in a separate incident off the island of Samos on Monday. All the 23 migrants were trying to cross the sea from nearby Turkey. According to the UNHRC, over 15,600 people arrived in Greece this year, nearly 12,000 of them by sea. This is the moment when a helicopter crashed into an apartment complex in Pompano Beach, Florida, killing 2 people and injuring at least 4. One of the victims has been identified as firefighter Captain Terrison Jackson, who was on board. The other victim was a woman who was on the ground when the accident occurred. Still to come on this edition of DD India. Faculty member fatally shot in University of North Carolina building. Charles Michael says EU must be ready to admit new members by 2030. Indian billionaire Gautam Adani's plan to rehouse people living in one of Asia's biggest slums is fueling worries among residents about his capacity to deliver.
Welcome to Kumarakom, Kerala, God's own country.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back to news. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. In yet another shooting incident in US, a faculty member was dead and a person was in custody after a shooting that shut down the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on Monday for 3 hours and sparked urgent warnings for students to take shelter. Students and staff members barricaded themselves in dorms, classrooms and library study areas for much of the afternoon, and area elementary schools held students past the normal dismissal time. After roughly 3 hours of lockdown, the all clear was given. Classes started a week ago, but the shooting led to terror and an eerie quiet during what is usually a joyous and exciting time on the campus. Video showed a large number of police vehicles at the campus with their emergency lights flashing. At times, people walked out of nearby buildings in a single file line with their arms in the air. And as United States witnessed a spree of mass shootings in past few days in Florida and Boston, White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre made it clear that white supremacy has no place in America.
Even as we continue searching for answers, we must say clearly and forcefully that white supremacy has no place in America. As the president said in his statement yesterday, we must refuse to live in a country where black families going to the store or black students going to school live in fear of being gunned down because of the color of their skin. And we must continue to do all we can to keep guns out of dangerous hands.
While Chinese Minister of Commerce Wang Wentao and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo held talks in Beijing on Monday to boost bilateral trade. Discussions focused on trade and economic relations, among other issues of mutual concern. Wang and Raimondo announced new communication channels between the U.S. Department of Commerce and Chinese Ministry of Commerce at the meeting. Both sides recognize the importance of open and productive dialogue between the U.S. and China in economy and trade. Raimondo arrived in Beijing on Sunday for a 4-day visit to China at the invitation of Wang. And as uncertainty looms over the fate of Wagner fighters after the death of its chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin, Russia pledged at the United Nations to keep providing comprehensive assistance to Mali, where about 1,000 fighters with Russia's Wagner mercenary group are helping the West African states junta fight an Islamist insurgency. Wagner chief Prigozhin died in a plane crash last week, and Russian President Vladimir Putin then ordered Wagner fighters to sign an oath of allegiance to the Russian state. Russia's deputy UN ambassador told the UN on Monday that bilateral cooperation between Russia and Mali and the military junta's sovereign choice of international security partners are keeping a former Western partners up at night. The 15-member council in June voted to end a decade-long peacekeeping mission in Mali after the military junta abruptly asked the 13,000-strong force to leave, a move the United States said was engineered by the Wagner Group.
As many of us feared, the transition government's decision to close MINUSMA has already triggered renewed violence on the ground. We are alarmed by a resumption of hostilities in northern Mali, including by violations of the ceasefire during the August 11th and 12th clashes at the Bear Camp, and by subsequent attacks on a MINUSMA convoy on August 13th. Additionally, MINUSMA's withdrawal limits the ability of the international community to protect civilians from the predations of Wagner, whose activities contribute to greater insecurity in the country.
And the European Union must be ready to admit new member states by 2030. European Council President Charles Michel says implementation of reforms to ensure independent judiciary, fighting organized crime and corruption, and alignment of foreign policy with the EU member states is a prerequisite. He urged all aspirants to resolve their bilateral conflicts before they join the European Union.
EU leaders will discuss enlargement at our next European Council meetings. We will take a stand on the opening of negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova, and I also expect Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia to be back on the table. You would all join together, yet future member states are at a different stage on their journey to the EU, but we need to make sure that past countries are not imported into the EU and used or even abused to block the accession of their neighbors and future member states.
Well, the 6 Western Balkan states, Albania, Bosnia, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia and Serbia are at different stages in the process of joining the bloc. Last year, Moldova and Ukraine were given candidate status. Georgia is waiting to receive that status as well. And London expanded its
2019, but this policy means hundreds of thousands more may be susceptible to the charge. The mayor proposed the policy in order to reduce the harm of toxic air pollution, which researchers found was responsible for prematurely killing 4,000 Londoners a year. Those in opposition say it's unfair on those who require a car to move around and don't have the means to upgrade their vehicle or use public transport alternatives. It's turned into a massive political hot potato between the Conservative government and the opposition Labour Party. While the Conservatives run the country, Labour runs London, and the elected mayor Sadiq Khan says the government seems to be weaponising air pollution and climate change for political reasons. Outrage amongst some has resulted in hundreds of the new ULEZ cameras reportedly being vandalised or stolen ahead of the start date to prevent vehicle number plates being scanned and stop fines being issued. The mayor's office says it's not backing down, with some cameras getting armour plating to protect them. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
And moving on, tropical storm Idalia lashed western Cuba and was expected to intensify into a major hurricane as it made its way towards Florida's Gulf Coast. According to the National Hurricane Center's advisory, Idalia is churning 80 miles off Cuba's western point. Heading north, Idalia impacted Cuba, prompting evacuations, shelter and fishing boat security. Authorities evacuated thousands from Pinar del Rio near Artemisa, facing heavy rain in Havana, the capital city of Cuba, with light winds. An excessive heat wave has descended upon Phoenix, Arizona, with rising temperatures to 46 degrees. New heat alert follows 31-degree streak of above 43 degrees centigrade temperatures in July. The lead meteorologist at the National Weather Service Phoenix office said this summer is rivaling the hottest on record in 2020.
In terms of what we know with the period of record, it's on this heat over the summer, especially July and August, is unprecedented. And it's rivaling the hottest summer on record with 2020, which of course it was hot all the way across from June through August, but this summer it's been more so just the July-August time frame, so that kind of gives you some context at how hot July and August have actually been relative to 2020, which we consider the hottest summer that we have ever had here in the Phoenix area.
However, Arizona resident has become accustomed to the scorching summer heat. And roads overlooking Lake Como were shut due to landslides and flash floods that hit northern Italy as strong storms approached. Downpour, severe rain caused flash floods in Sondrio and Genoa, as well as a landslide in Blavio in the northern Italian region of Como. Authorities said cleanup efforts were in progress in the impacted cities. Piedmont and Lombardy still posed a serious flood risk. And preparations are in full swing for the G20 summit in Delhi. To deal with any sort of medical emergency, 50 ambulances with designated medical staff will be stationed at the Indira Gandhi International Airport, hotels and the summit venue, Bharat Mandapam. Major government hospitals will also be put on standby. Intensive care unit-like arrangement will be installed near the venue to cater any medical need. Team of dedicated medical staff will be made available for the delegates round the clock. Indian Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia is going to review the medical contingency preparation on Tuesday. And over 25 world leaders, including US President Joe Biden, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will convene at India's hosted G20 summit on September 9th and 10th. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre tells us about President Biden's stand.
The President will reaffirm the U.S. commitment to the G20 as the premier forum of economic cooperation globally. He'll discuss a range of joint efforts to tackle global issues, from the clean energy transition and combating climate change to mitigating the economic and social impacts of Russia's war in Ukraine. Obviously, that will be a big part of the conversation, to increasing the capacity of the multilateral development banks, including the World Bank, to better fight poverty and take on the significant transnational challenges that are afflicting countries across the world.
Well, the second meeting of the chief scientific advisors at Gandhinagar in Gujarat under India's G20 presidency concluded on Monday with the adoption of an outcome document. Consensus was built on 4 agenda points in the roundtable. The G20 CSA Roundtable is a new initiative launched during India's ongoing presidency of the G20. Chief scientific advisors of the G20 heads of state and governments were brought together with the objective of creating an effective institutional arrangement to discuss global science and tech policy issues. It is expected to evolve into an effective and coherent global science advice mechanism. G20 CSR aims to come up with solutions to some of the issues faced by the global S&T ecosystem. And the G20 India Agritech Summit was organized on Monday in India's national capital, New Delhi. The role of technology in the field of agriculture and the possibilities of technology-based agriculture in the future were discussed in the summit. Startups and people associated with the agriculture industry participated in the summit. India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant addressed the event. The Sherpa is a special appointee of each member country's principal to undertake negotiations to draft the final outcome document. He highlighted 4 priorities of the Agriculture Working Group and also said G20 members have taken the collective responsibility for sustainable agriculture food system.
The Agriculture Working Group had 4 priorities this year: food security and nutrition, sustainable agriculture with climate smart approach, inclusive agri-value chains and food systems, and digitization for agricultural transformation. All these G20 priorities of India are set in the backdrop of addressing the issue of global hunger and malnutrition for achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 2 of zero hunger by leveraging technological advancement. And technological advancement in agriculture is really the key. Leveraging digital and technological advancement also translates mainstreaming innovative practices like providing farmers with real-time data, creating crop production forecast models, integrating artificial intelligence for projections regarding crop disease outbreak, warming, and agricultural inputs control, particularly good irrigation systems. G20 members, being the major agriculture producers, consumers and exporters, have come together to take a collective they have taken a collective responsibility towards transitioning to a sustainable and resilient agricultural food system.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Indian Space Agency ISRO has released an Ultra HD video of Chandrayaan-3 landing on Moon's South Pole. After its landing, Chandrayaan-3 is revealing more and more about the Moon. The Indian Space Research Organisation has data from the mission's Vikram lander that indicates major temperature variations on the Moon's surface. Indian Minister of Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari is going to unveil a 100% ethanol-fueled variant of Toyota's Innova car on Tuesday. Gadkari has been encouraging car manufacturers to come out with alternative fuel-powered and green vehicles. Last year, Minister launched a hydrogen-powered car, Toyota Mirai EV. In a heroic life-saving act, a 2-year-old girl who stopped breathing on board a Bengaluru-Delhi Vistara flight was saved by doctors on board the flight. The 4 AIIMS resident doctors and 1 from ILBS performed CPR on the child mid-air after the crew made an emergency announcement. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia congratulated the doctors for saving a precious life. Kerala is all set to welcome the main day of Onam festival on Wednesday. It is a festival of harvest which symbolizes the homecoming of the mythological king Mahabali, who believed to have ruled Kerala when love, equality, fraternity and prosperity flourished. Fresh floral designs are made every day to welcome the legendary king, which continues till the end of Onam festival. And Wall Street rallied on Monday, shaking off a recent losing streak. The main indices all finished the day in the green as the tech sector tried to bounce back from steep losses. Nick Harper reports.
Well, US markets found more solid footing on Monday as Wall Street entered the final trading week of August, looking to try and regain some of those recent losses. It's been a bad month for all three indexes, dropping in the region of 2.5% to 4.5% each over the last 4 weeks. On Monday, though, the tech sector got a boost, with some of the big players like Apple and Meta trading higher. The markets also seemed buoyed on Monday following comments on Friday from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He suggested that the US economy is continuing to show signs of growth, and he pointed to strong consumer spending data. Even so, he teased more interest rate hikes, and traders now say there's a 20% chance that the Fed will raise rates again at its next meeting in September. Before then, we'll get personal consumption expenditures index data, that's a key gauge of inflation, and the monthly jobs report. They're both out during the course of this trading week. So at the close, the Dow was up 0.6%, the S&P also up 0.6%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq faring slightly better, finishing the day 0.8% higher. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, let's move to sports update now. Fans flocked to New York City's Flushing Meadows Corona Park in Queens to watch the best of the best compete against one another at the Arthur Ashe Stadium on Monday. And Iga Swiatek began her US Open title defense with an emphatic first-round victory, while number one Swiatek breezed to a 6-0, 6-1 win over Sweden's Rebecca Peterson in 58 minutes. Elina Rybakina defeated Kostwick 6-2, 6-1 in another 1 hour and 16 minutes despite having shoulder pain prior to the tournament. And Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas reached the second round of the US Open by winning against Canadian Milos Raonic 6-2, 6-3, 6-4. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India Live.